We've had 2 false starts. The first one was because I was too lazy to fetch the fragrances I've been wearing lately. The second one was because a really loud street sweeper went down the road and I got annoyed, and it was very visible. I have a very expressive face. Today I thought I would embrace the asymmetry of my face and not flip the video. That was very ambitious of me, so I'm going to stick to appeasing my vanity. It's really weird though that your true self is something that you'll never see in terms of perception. Maybe that's why people say I'm so confident and audacious, because they're like, oh, actually you're very asymmetrical and kind of ugly. It's very interesting that you have so much self-confidence. Meanwhile, they don't see what I see in the mirror. Quite literally. Anyway, I have been really more into more subtle fragrances, cleanness, leaning fragrances, and also a little bit of the yumminess. So my bedtime trio is Gabar Lull. So good, you know it, you love it, as do I. And thank you for everybody who's been using my code. I know I've been AWOL, but some of you still are using the code, so I really appreciate you. There's also a Centologia Lactonic. It is a little bit lactonic. It reminds me of something that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's like a sandalwood creamy fragrance that's also quite sweet. And also Grano from Gigida. So all of those are on my nightstand, and those are the scents I just spritz on before bed. And today and other days, on my skin, I've been wearing Divina by Paradis Sens. This is a newer fragrance that's coming out soon, and it is yummy. It kind of reminds me of Blanche Bête. It's sweet, a little bit caramelized, a little bit white floral, vanillic. This one also feels a little bit more fruity, and it just, smells good. I would love this in a bigger bottle as well. But I'm enjoying my little 15 ml, and I don't even know when it's releasing, but it's really good. Last year at Sens, we went to the Arcadie de Niche universe. That includes Paradis de Sens, this brand called Alfred Ritchy, another one called Relique d'Amour, maybe, and what else? Scentologia. So all of those are under the same umbrella. And I smelled this scent called Nassau that hadn't been released yet. Despite having met the owner and founder, I did not make it onto the PR list, but Maria happened to snag me a bottle. This is the benefit of having beautiful friends. And I'm really enjoying this. This really smells like the Boom Boom cream. I really like the smell of the lotion. I don't think any of the body sprays or any of the fragrances smell like the cream, but this one does. So this is Nassau by Alfred Ritchy. I also spoke about it on my Perfume Room podcast with Emma Vernon, who is one of the best to do it. I really love her interviewing style, and she always has amazing guests. Sometimes the brand founders can be a little bit iffy, but if it's like perfumer-led, then that's really nice. In fact, if you listen to my Milan diaries, my love letters from Milan, which is on my Spotify, I will not be transferring it to YouTube because I don't want to. It doesn't do well. Like audio, visual-less stuff does not do well on YouTube, I found. And unless you're somebody like Kayali, who has had a long history on YouTube and has a lot of followers. But sometimes I have to pander to the algorithms. But what I was trying to say is, if you listened to those, then you would know that I ended up meeting Mabel Orama, and I listened to her episode on the Perfume Room podcast, and it was really amazing to discover her brand. And she's a really cool person, very generous. I mean, Lebanese, Middle Eastern people are always going to be highly generous. So it was really lovely sitting down with her and listening to her story and going through her creations. I was there with Amelia, Professor Perfume, Maria, Perfumaniac, Clémence CC Fragrance, and also our friend Tatiana, who is a friend and Maria's like manager / assistant. And it was really cool sitting down with everybody and experiencing it together. That's what's so cool about Sens, is just a lot of people with different levels of infamy or fame just come together and engage, and we all have this shared love, and that's my favorite thing. But prior to Sens, I had received some fragrances for a campaign, which I've been doing on Instagram and TikTok just to generate some funds because I have an uncertain future. I received alongside the Born in Romas a bottle of Alien. I don't really know what the name of this is. I think it's Alien Intense something or Extra Intense. You know, the nomenclature these days is just high volume, high power, cue Jeremy Fragrances meme. But this is essentially a tuberose. It doesn't smell designery. It's like quattro pizzi, a little bit sweeter, more floral, more green, and it's just really done really well. And it makes me question some of the niche tuberoses I've smelled. It really does. And I have a refill, so I'm very excited. I wear this a lot. It's great. Unless you want something sweet, this does tend to be a little bit less sweet than your typical fragrance, but I really loved pairing this tuberose with Gabar Swim because that is a really green galbanum and fig fragrance, and that together with this tuberose that's more white and clean makes this really lovely luscious combination, because also the fig is a bit milky as well because it's got those lactones involved in the fig accord, so that's a perfect pairing. But recently, Ormonde Jayne, the lovely people, sent me a bottle of Amber Royale, and I also just realized I have a code with them that I never punt. It's the niche sampler if you're ever interested in Ormonde Jayne, if you want to purchase at retail. Amber Royale, to me, it scratches the same itches that Spice d'Arnaud does. It is not overly complicated. It's an amber that's really accented with florals. It's very calm. It doesn't feel like high energy and electric. And it's also so chic. Also really potent. I sprayed 2 sprays of this yesterday and it lasted me all day long. And I even had an evening soiree with friends, or my colleagues really, and I could still smell it then. But for some reason, I think because I've had so many months of isolation, I don't like being perceived as much in real life, at least at work, because I don't know, it's a lot to go from being by yourself and in your own thoughts for months on end to almost every single day just being with people and their opinions and their thoughts. So I've just been trying to tone it down on the fragrance part, even though it's never really that toned down. So what I'll do is usually I'll choose like my scent of the day and I'll just do a very demure 2 to 3 sprays on my skin, like prior to clothing myself. And then when I clothe myself, because I still am a fragrance lover and I am who I am, I've been spraying Lethe by Ulrich Lang. I don't know, sometimes language is so tough. Like Ulrich is not that hard to read and say, but it's just I struggle to say it. But Uri gave this to us when we were meeting with him, and he had set up a stand at the NH Collection in Milan, and this is just a beautiful clean musk. It's a clean skin scent that's done really well. I'm very much a clean fragrance lover. I realized I know it's a trend that's trying to pop up on social media, but I really have been a fan for a long time. I love White Musk by The Body Shop. I loved The Musk by Khalees Becker for Essential Parfum. I obviously really loved Hearsay at 3. I still do love it actually. I'm excited to wear that this summer again. And yeah, this is the new iteration. I also smelled this beautiful musk from Les Indomptables. It's called Musc de Sable or something like that. And yeah, I might pick one of those up in the summertime. And yeah, that's basically what I've been wearing. And it's been a tough time coming out of everything. I've only just cleaned my apartment properly recently, and there's all like floors to do. I've got lots of spring cleaning to do, but I feel, hopeful. I feel hopeful about the future, and I'm really excited to get back into content creating and just seeing where this journey takes us, because it's actually really incredible what we get to experience just by virtue of sharing this passion with people and each other. And I love that. One of my other passions that I developed while I was writing my thesis, that I'm looking at now while I chat to you, because I almost dried up my nib again, is fountain pens. I do think this is one of those hobbies where I think 2 to 3 more pens and I'm finished. I've got the basic ones. I think I've spoken about this before, but I got the basic ones and I found this really beautiful vintage one, and it's like nameless. I think it's probably somebody's self-build, but it's really lovely, and I love an extra fine nib. For the European market, the extra fine nib can be questionable depending on what paper you're writing on, but the Japanese extra fine nibs, those are excellent. So I think that some of the European manufacturers, like any of them, and the American ones, can also do custom grinds. So I think one of my big girl purchases when I get a proper job will be to get like an SD with a beautiful shell and like a needlepoint grind, or a really beautiful Japanese fountain pen that has a beautiful like shell. I just want a beautiful looking pen like this. I just want more of these, and then ultra extra fine or an extra fine nib, because I really like a fine point. Ever since I was a stationery loving kid on Tumblr and on Study Blur, an extra fine nib has been like my saving grace. I just think your handwriting looks better most of the time, and you can fit more stuff on a page if you can write smaller, and you need a smaller nib for that. Anyway, no shade to the ballpoint pen enthusiasts, but we're doing fountain pens and fine nib gel pens over here, okay? Today we are going to be discussing Tanaïs, and they sent me a lot of stuff near the end of the year. I'm really, really grateful. They have this amazing vitamin E rich lip balm, which I use all the time, and it's really chic because it has this reflective case that's just impeccable, like their lipstick. I also have one of their lipsticks in the shade Mala, which is just an excellent shade on me. I love wearing lipstick lately. In fact, I've really been enjoying wearing makeup in general lately. Ever since I got the Westman Atelier foundation stick, I was just like, wow, this is actually not that hard to do. I just need to slather it on, blend it in with a brush, do a little bit of contouring, and then I keep going, and Bob's your uncle. Wow, it's such a beautiful day. The sky is blue. Wow, sorry, I'm really excited for spring. So I've really been enjoying wearing makeup. And then I remember the other day I was chatting to somebody and I said, oh, I don't know how to use this picture in real life, because obviously when you create content, you can take pictures of yourself that are more posed and not something that you would use on like your regular profile. And there's this picture of me from the Bon Parfumeur party, which is now the cover page to one of my reels on Instagram. And it's just like this portrait. First of all, I was just like, for all of my asymmetry, I've got a really nice profile, not gonna lie. And it looks so powerful and bold. But then what I was thinking about is how I said in my real life. But then I was like, why would I say that? Because the content creator life is real life as well, because I have so many friends, so many real connections, and it's something I really am passionate about. This is part of my life. This is part of who I am. And it's part of embracing a little bit of my creative side in engaging with people all across the world. It's just such a privilege to be in this space. And I think I sometimes take it less seriously, or no, I treat it less seriously than it is in my life. So I need to work on that. There's always something to work on. Isn't that fun? I remember before I went to Sens, I know I just announced the brand of the hour, but I'm just going to yap a little bit because I actually have a few things I wanted to get off my chest. Before I went to Sens, I actually filmed an episode, but I was really dejected in it. I was really sad because of global politics. We got interrupted because I have the doorbell ring. First of all, I got in my new issue of Vogue. I don't know how to cancel it, alas. We just got in the new Kayali Fleur Majesty. I've been really intrigued by this one. I've been really intrigued by this one. Also, I will continue talking about what I was talking about, which was like global politics. You can't really be that sad or talk about like sad things when the sun is shining and you just got new fragrance in. So this is a live first reaction before we get into the earthy, wonderful sense of Tanaïs. I completely understand the reason why they had to switch to the new packaging for Kayali, but I do miss the old boxes. So the top says romantic, sensual, timeless. There's no way to open these boxes in a way that kind of preserves them. Or maybe I'm just a fiend. But let's, look at this. Okay, not gonna lie, I'm a millennial. I'm a sucker for a ombre moment. Now, I do know that we are supposed to wait before we spray things that have just come out of the cold, but I have many virtues. Patience is not one of them. Okay. Actually, I think I have a scent that smells very similar to this. But it's a fun, flirty, floral rose. It's a fruity rose. Yeah, this is going to be big. It's going to be a hit. It's really gorgeous. I can see that a lot of people will love it. Is this my style? Not necessarily, but it's well crafted. And I think that the girls that love Divina and something like Solar Canopy by Future Society will probably appreciate a scent like this at this price point, or getting the mini or the travel size. I think what I love about Kayali is that the accessibility of it all, really. Oh, and it's got this little gold thing. Okay, Fleur Majesty. I didn't see anything about an embargo, so I don't think I'm breaking any rules. But anyway, global politics. So, first of all, I remember saying that I thought that a TikTok ban would free us all. And I'll say it again. A TikTok ban would free us all. I think that the democratization of platforming is not necessarily always a positive thing. I do believe everybody has a right to their opinion and a right to have their voice, but some people are quite loud. And also quite wrong very loudly. There's a quote in a Barbara Kingsolver novel from the Lacuna that said, "The talkers are rising above the thinkers." And that is exactly what happens on TikTok. I don't know how many political accounts I've had to block just so that they don't come across my newsfeed again, because there are people that I follow that will repost them. And this is not to say that everybody that makes political content is loud and wrong, but some of it is just really exhausting. Yes, it's definitely all going to be globally impactful, what's happening in the US and obviously in Europe as well. But I don't want to hear all of the whataboutism all the time. And people are being so cruel to each other, saying, oh, FAFO. I understand you feel really resentful towards people that voted against your interests. Definitely, I get that. And also, I mean, let me not say something to get my 10-year visa revoked, but we are in very unprecedented times, okay? Very unprecedented times. And it's very easy to see why. But what I don't enjoy is people saying, just people coming on with this sarcastic notion, right? Because in my mind, if you are right in your reasoning for why you wanted one candidate over another, time will show, time will tell. You don't need to keep like confronting people and trying to virtually slap people across the internet for some kind of reprieve. I don't think people are getting satisfied from being, see, I told you so. I don't think you're being satisfied because you're sitting in the mud with them. Well, I'm so proud of myself for saying mud. I wanted to say a different word. You're sitting in the mud with them. And I think that more important work in these times from what I've seen from the history of my country and the history of other countries, the more important work is not happening on screens. The more important work is happening on the ground. Because as much as you can sit and quote Vonnegut and Marx on TikTok to show how intellectually superior you are, it's probably more important that you ask your neighbors their names and if they have any medical conditions and what you can do to help them out. It's probably more important that you have a community like soup kitchen. It's probably more important that you have a can drive so that people who are living in food deserts or who are living in dire straits can have access to something nutritious to feed themselves and their family. Like, that's probably more important work, and I would love to see more content that is promoting these initiatives rather than the whataboutism. And it seems to be a very specific, very loud demographic that have been really specific and loud throughout history that are the main perpetrators of this affront to my online doom scrolling pleasure. And those 12 hours on TikTok when TikTok was banned in the US, or was not operational in the US, I should rather say, it was interesting just to see different cultural styles and different content. It felt, I obviously missed the TikTok people. I missed my perfume talk people. I was like, they need to get their stuff back immediately, and the small businesses immediately. But I really enjoyed not having all of the think pieces and everything being so American centric. And it's very interesting because I try like to engage with people from other countries, but my FYP will not change. So yeah, that was probably not the most gracious thought to share, but I had to say it. A TikTok ban would free us all. At the very least, it would free us from... I think that there is a level of transference of energy, like the anxiety of the situation, the hopelessness, the despair, the anger, that does get transmitted across the screen. And it's important. Of course, it's important. I understand people need avenues for self-expression, but it was nice to get the reprieve. More so, I definitely realized that I appreciate my online life because it's enriched my years so much. Wow, that sounded really old. It enriched my years, but it has. My years during the PhD. What's kept me human, what's kept me maintaining the aspects of myself that aren't celebrated and aren't emphasized in academia, like being girly and enjoying glamour and beauty and makeup. What that TikTok has given me, that TikTok has allowed me to maintain and sustain myself in that regard and enrich myself in that regard. But it's really nice to be outside. It's nice to be reading and doing art and doing things that aren't consistently looking at your phone. I think that's important. I'm going to try and implement that more in my life. During my writing process, I definitely had a timer. I had a time limit for Instagram and TikTok on my phone, which now I need to probably reinstitute. And I was doing other stuff and I felt more clarity. And I think I like meditating on the meaninglessness of life, and I like meditating on how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things. I think that peering into infinity is very good for you. I think that, well, depending who you are, some people solve for the void by getting really entrenched into cults and things. But overall, I think it's good to have a reality check in terms of everything. I think it's helped me not stress out too much about my future after I've graduated and I need to find a job. Yes, everything feels so important and so pressing in this moment, in this little speck of time that we're experiencing, time where everything is very tangible and real, but we are a little speck on a continuum of infinity, and it's all not going to really matter much. So I think we need to maximize fun and maximize joy and maximize community. I really sometimes resent being robbed of the opportunity to fully embrace all of human culture, because there's been so much sadness and exploitation throughout time. Like, I really want to be walking down the street rocking a chipao and a bindi because I think they're cool. But because we live in a world where people don't acknowledge people's cultures and the history that they've experienced and endured, these things that are part of the human story now have to become discretized into our specific regional cults, tribes, and that's something that we're not getting access to. Of course, I could just decide I don't care and then do what I want, but I do care. I care about people. And so, yeah, I do sometimes feel robbed of that, but it's also cool to be able to engage and embrace them when we can. Like, if you go to India, you will be put into a sari and a suvakami and a lenga, if you go to a wedding, for instance. But it's just not something that you would just now take back to your home country and just rebrand and act like it's something that's yours. It has to be culturally appropriate, as we discussed cultural appropriation. I feel like I was slow dancing towards a point and now I've completely lost it. So we might as well move on to the other thing I wanted to discuss, apart from social media and brain rot being bad for you and embracing real life and peering into infinity, is that I think we all should be taking way more risks than we do. Because I think that risk averseness as an evolutionary strategy is very smart. However, we also are living in very cushy times. Unfortunately, the main threats to your existence are institutional and systemic. They're not really like pressing, right? Like dancing in the moonlight in the middle of the savannah can be a bit of a risk, because something that is a creature of the night, a real creature of the night like a cat, can come and attack you because you look like prey. That's a real existential threat. But being embarrassed, shame, not real threats. They really aren't. And I think that we should embrace that, and we should take more liberties and enjoy the liberty that we do have. Yes, there's a lot that can bring us down, that is bringing us down and holding us down. But I think that taking more risk is a more fun way to live. More so because meritocracy isn't real and it doesn't exist. I realized, maybe this is just a personal evolution I needed to have and a personal little ego death. I realized that wanting to aspire to accolade and prestige is really just part of this game of life that isn't that necessary. It's actually really fun to have the side quests. I don't know if you've ever played RuneScape. I really loved just collecting the little coins and building up my farm, and I didn't really care if I battled the big boss. I really wanted to just live in the village. Just like in The Sims, I liked dressing up my sim and buying the house and decorating it. I didn't really care about earning the money to get the credits to build the house. I just added the little rosebud cheat code and carried on my way. And I realized that without ascribing to simulation theory, because that's something that tech nerds who don't want to say they believe in God kind of do, I think that we can enjoy life in a gamified way without only seeking value in leveling up, but just enjoying the gameplay as well. Okay, enough of that, enough of my half-baked philosophizing. Let's get into Tanaïs. Tanaïs has been somebody I've been following on social media for a while, and I'm really grateful to all of the small creatives, and here when I say creator, I mean they're actually creating things, physical things, not just virtual digital things. I also have, next up we've got Jasmine Sarai, we also have Hunain from Adil Ali. We've got lots of stuff to discover and chat about together. But I really appreciate it when people see me and that they think, oh, I think she'll see me too. I love that. I feel so humbled by that. And yeah, I think this is always the fun time that we get to have with people, by just connecting because we have like minds, or just something spiritually connects in that way. So they sent me like 11 fragrances and 2 full bottles, really generous. And like I said, the lipsticks, the lip balm, they've got amazing stuff. Check out their stuff. They're also a writer and a writing mentor. They've achieved a lot in life, and in a way, like Tanaïs and Yosh are 2 people, actually lots of people I do look up to, but I look up to them because they are living life by their own means, and they're continuously learning and sharing their wisdom. But a lot of what I'm learning from them is just by observing the way in which they embrace their life. And Tanaïs just decided that they cannot work for somebody. They need to be in business with themselves and create, and to go along that journey. And I know it's not easy, so I'm always very grateful when they decide to share a piece of their work with me, especially because shipping to Switzerland is not easy, and also can be, customs and all that is not always particularly fun for people. So I've already sprayed some things on the blotter just so that I didn't have to awkwardly fiddle around with the samples, but I have to show you, there are these beautifully done samples. They have screen printed labels and this beautiful gold sticker that kind of helps keeps things together, and they're just lovely. And I'm really happy that I get to play around with a lot of these fragrances. One of the fragrances they sent me, Lover's Rock, is one of my favorites from the entire journey of last year. It's really spicy and punchy, and it feels cozy but also chic. It's just delicious and gorgeous, and other people agree with me. It's also yummy. But now let's go into the rest of the collection. First we've got Mojave. So what I love about the Tanaïs scents as well, because I have smelled these before, because I'm a fiend, I cannot stop. If I see something new, I need to smell it before I put it away and give it its own time. So they have a lot of really natural elements in their perfumery. And what I think that this does first is it creates a cohesive identity throughout the line. Even if one profile is more ordinary than the other compositions, it still feels part of the cohesive collection. Mojave feels a little bit watery, in fact almost melony, very slightly green, watercolored. And there's something that's quite vibrant and alive in there, a little bit woody as well. Now, I mean, there are many places in the US I'd love to explore, but definitely the West, the Midwest, I guess, where you have the desert and cowboy hats and just interesting stories. I've really been into folk music lately, and I just wish that's something that people would emphasize more from like US American culture. I think it's really cool, and I really love that the people who were singing that music also stood for something. We're now smelling Namaka. White florals. I think this is a tuberose jasmine mix, or maybe it's more jasmine than tuberose, but there is no indole here. This is more the gorgeous, lush, petally aspect of the white floral. Again, there's this watercolor nature to it. Oh, this is just really pleasant. Clean as well, I'd say. Doesn't really have rough edges. Oh, this is beautiful. If you are a white floral lover, this is something that you would really appreciate. Namaka. Now we're smelling Nymphaea. Now, here, there's this earthy tincture, this earthy accord that Tanaïs has in a couple of fragrances, and here it's really balanced out with more luscious vegetal aspects, and I also clearly smell a sandalwood. This is really lovely. But depending on how the earthy aspect plays on skin, it can be challenging or not. I will talk about ancients soon. Pilgrimage, this one you have this almost clay-like texture. I don't know if anybody else understands this. I think I have a very mild case of pica, which is where you eat things that aren't supposed to be eaten. My vices in particular include paper, and I've always had this desire to eat moist soil. And this is giving that kind of satisfaction of that delicious allure of wet soil. There's also something cozy about this, calming, meditative. And it also has a vibrancy to it in terms of having just kind of like a middling effect. You know, sometimes you can be on a super high or you can be at a low, but this one feels like it's holding you in this middling sphere. That's really cool. Sandalo, another favorite of mine. You know me, I love sandalwood, and sandalo is no exception. So when you have more natural smelling sandalwood, sometimes you get this, which I feel like is an essence of the life of the tree, is that there's this kind of like nuttiness that exists in the middle. So you have sandalwood that is more scratchy. To me, it's not dill-like, but it's also not smooth like something like sandalwood temple. This one has like that creamy facet sandalwood can have. It has kind of like this pulpy, nutty middle part, and a little bit of texture, like wood grain that's been sanded, but still has a few rivets of the actual tree's texture, if that makes sense. Probably not, but that's what I experience. Now we're smelling ancients. Now ancients here, this is the first time I smelt that earthy accord that Tanaïs has, and I have a full bottle of this. This feels aromatic and really earthy. But this one is earthy in almost a dry way rather than moist. Yeah, there's also something camphorous in there, like something minty or sprightly in there. But I mainly get that earthiness within the ancients itself. Cosmic. Cosmic has a little bit more of those floral indoles represented. It also feels also a little bit camphorous and minty. There's also smoothness in there. There's also something that feels spicy, but it's not spice. Maybe it is just the effect of the mint. Of course, I always go into these without having read the notes. So I'm just telling you what I'm smelling and what I'm feeling. Oh, this is actually really lovely. I need to play with this one on skin. I have too much perfume on today, but because I did home office, but that's something that's really interesting. Cosmic by Tanaïs, keep note, and Sandalo, and Lover's Rock. Now we're smelling heart chakra. Oh, also I should mention Tanaïs has Bengali roots, so she's not, well, they're not culturally appropriating. Oh, this just does smell like love. It smells red. It feels vibrating. It smells almost rosy. And you know, when this, in the top notes, there's also a little bit more earthiness in there, and also sandalwood. Yeah, this is lovely. Cosmic, no heart chakra. Yeah. This is appropriately named. This does feel like a rose quartz moment with a rose petal bath and calling love in, like The Love Witch, which is one of my favorite movies, by the way. What are your favorite movies? I think I've always said, okay, so perfume people, they love tea. Very, very true. But I also think perfume people love film. But I think we all have very specific genres. And I have like my little pretentious side that likes like a little bit obscure cinema. And then I also have a few of my cult favorite classics. So I love Mean Girls, Clueless, The Heathers, Easy A, very randomly. But I also love things like Suspiria, The Love Witch, and also old Hollywood movies in general. Oh, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and yeah, that's one of my favorite movies as well. Oh, Matti. This smells orange. There's a lot of like fresh vegetation in here as well, but not in a super green way, but you know what it smells like? It smells like when you have flowers that are on their way out. So you have like the echo of what was a once sprightly flower, but now it's kind of browning out. In fact, there's that new fragrance from DS Durga called Brown Flowers, and I feel like this is a scent that I would call brown flowers. Oh, I love this. Okay, we got some bangers here, Tanaïs. Now we're smelling Mala, which I think is also the name of the fragrance, the lipstick I really like. Oh yeah. But I think Mala might have been a little bit corrupted by Lovers Rock. But this is also a favorite. Yeah, Mala and Mati and Lovers Rock all have strong spiced elements. I think Lovers Rock is sweeter in the end, but they all kind of have spice and vibrancy. It feels like something that could be a beautiful paste that imbues some sort of protection, but also like love. And I think that that's a vibe. I really, really appreciate this discovery set. I really loved going through the collection. I think that this is something special. I think that this is why we need artisan perfumers in the space, because there are some things that the traditional mass market, the prestige market is just not going to make. And these are the people making it, and it's super cool. And I love these. So my favorites from Tanaïs would be Lovers Rock, which I'm already fortunate to own, Heart Chakra, Sandalo, and probably Mala the most. And yeah, that's been amazing. Thank you so much, Tanaïs, if you ever hear this. I really loved going through these things. And I think that I just love the brand. I think they're super cool. And I'm also really happy to have smelled the new Kayali. It definitely is going to be a fan favorite. I mean, it's peony rose with some sharper fruity accents. It does do a little bit of the magazine rose thing for me that Divina does, but not as much as Divina does. I think that this is going to be beloved by many people, and I definitely will wear this. Sometimes with roses I have a very particular space in which I need to wear them, but this one is definitely something I would wear, and I will report back on how I appreciate the wearing experience. But that is it for now. We will reconvene again next week at some point, probably. Thank you for sticking with me throughout these challenging times. I hope that you're doing okay. I hope that you're taking time to sit with your feelings. I hope you're journaling if you don't have a therapist. I hope you're journaling if you do have a therapist. I think it's good to record your time, because we are living in unprecedented times. There will be more warfare than we're seeing right now, most likely, and there will be some harsh economic times. So I think it's good to have physical records of what was happening in ordinary people's lives, because at the end of the day, we ordinary people are what make this world what it is, and we matter. So record it. Your little life, your silly little life, is the most profound thing that's ever happened to you and your family. So make a note of it. And with that, I hope you have sunshine where you are and you're enjoying it. Always remember to sample before you buy, and happy sniffing.